packaging and to possibly impact the election and how many votes are able to be counted. What can the United States Senate do? What can the United States House do to make sure that the president doesn't undermine the election?
The president he's wanted to destroy the post office. You know, he gets these little bugs in his head that have nothing to do with reality. No one tells him the truth, and then he tries to go for it. So he's wanted to hurt the post office, maybe even destroy it, end it for a long time. Now we have the COVID crisis, and like everywhere else, some postal workers have COVID. And instead of beefing up the number of people at the post office, the new postmaster general, who has no experience in postal, and who is a big contributor to Trump. I called him, by the way, 3 times because I wanted to talk to him about what he was doing. He would not call me back. Finally, Pelosi and I said, we're not going to negotiate on this unless we meet with him. That's what I said to them. We met with him. The meeting was a disgrace. He is so far over his head. And to cut back on overtime, to cut back on the number of employees, particularly during the COVID crisis. I'll get to elections in a second. What about people who need their medicines? What about the so many necessities that are now sent through the mail because people won't go out and shop in a store? So there should have been an increase to begin with. But what I think is motivating Trump and his henchmen there at the head of the post office is to screw up the system so that they can claim that the elections weren't done properly. Because if the mail is late, it doesn't work. So what can we do about it? We are insisting in this COVID HEROES bill, the COVID-4 bill, that first the Postal Service get the money it needs so it can hire people, so it can put overtime. We've asked for $25 billion over 3 years, $10 billion in the first year. That's what the experts tell us they need. And second, if they don't rescind this language, and we made a strong pitch for them to rescind these rules that limit overtime, that don't allow them to hire people, we can insist and put it in the bill, and that's one of our top priorities. I told them we're not giving in on this. This is so vital. The fact that these guys would take the wellspring of our democracy, elections, and mess with them, whether it's Russian interference, that seems to be okay with Donald Trump, whether it's not giving the states the money they need to adjust to many more people who will vote by mail and a need to have more places where people can drop things off so there'll be social distancing if they don't want to vote by mail. The fact that they're messing around with the post office, these are all the wellsprings of our democracy. If Americans believe after November that the elections weren't fair, where are we headed? That's been the core of that's what men and women have died for, the right to vote in a free and fair election. We've been the hallmark of America. Trump's trying to destroy it. We think it's vital to prevent that from happening, and we're using every way we can, including this COVID bill, to make sure they can't do it.
All right.
Leader Schumer, it's Casey Hunt. This, of course, is all predicated on you passing a massive COVID package. It's nice to see you. The president said last night, quote, the Democrats have called, they'd like to get together, and we say if it's not a waste of time, we'll do it. Do you know what he's talking about?
Fables from Donald Trump. Fables. That's what he seems to specialize in. I didn't call him. Speaker Pelosi didn't call him. No, we didn't call him. He makes these things up, or he hears from somebody at one of his fundraisers or at his country club, oh, the Democrats are calling you, and he acts like it's true. Here's how we've left it. On Thursday, I believe it was, we said to them, we're willing to come down $1 trillion. You come up $1 trillion. When you're ready, come back and talk to us. Here's what I think might happen. This is an optimistic scenario, Casey. So the Republicans, they're in a pickle. You have 20 of them who don't want any money whatsoever, but then you have 10 or 15, many running for re-election, who are desperate to get a package. And they're all hanging their hats on this executive order. Oh, that'll solve the problem and we won't have to do anything. Well, now it's clear that these executive orders are going to be minimal at best. I've called them paltry, or 3 words that I've used, which now seem to be in the currency, are unworkable, narrow, and scanty. They just won't work. So it may well be that the Republicans are willing to now sit down with us because they see what they were hanging their hat on. These executive orders are just being more or less regarded at best as ineffective and laughed at worst. And hopefully they'll
Mike
now come
Barnicle's
to the
with
table.
us.
We're ready, but they have to meet us in the middle. They can't just come to the table and say it's our way or no way. We'll never get a deal. And the reason is not because we want to thwart them, but because what they're proposing doesn't meet the dramatic needs of the American people. The greatest economic problem since the Depression, the greatest healthcare problem since the Spanish flu. We need bold action. We're not going to settle for some skimpy thing that doesn't work. You know, what I called it, by the way, was what I've been calling this is unworkable. I got to remember the words, but they're good. they're unworkable.
Senator,
All right,
they're far too
Mike
narrow.
Barnicle's with us and has a question
Unworkable,
for
weak,
you.
and
Mike.
far too narrow. That's it. That's the three
Mike,
words.
go.
So, Senator, let me interrupt you here for a second and ask you a simple question. Millions of Americans are now on the verge of economic collapse that will take them years to recover from. Mnuchin and Mark Meadows come up to your office or Speaker Pelosi's office daily to discuss this problem. Have you seen any evidence from them during these negotiations in the past 3 days that the President of the United States is actively involved on a minute-by-minute basis in these negotiations? And in the last 72 hours, has the President of the United States called you personally to see if something can't get done?
No, I've seen zero evidence that he's involved at all. And he has not called us. I haven't spoken to him. I spoke to him during the last bill when Mnuchin was there. Meadows wasn't, and we got more done. But I haven't spoken to him since.
All right.
Right,
Thank you so much. It's great to have you on, Chuck
Thank
Schumer.
you.
We greatly appreciate it. And, you know, Mika, thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube. And make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.